What's up, G Show Land, and welcome to another episode of the G Show Podcast. I am G1, and this is the Geek Out. We got a pretty solid show for you today, but before we get to it, let me introduce you to my guest hanging out with me in the Geek Out, geeking out with me. We got, coming back from last week, we got C. Monty. What's up, my brother?
What's good, what's good, what's good?
Yo, man, thanks for coming back, man. Last week was a good time. Appreciated all your input. So glad to see you back and hoping to, and anticipating what you're gonna say this week.
No problem, man. Anytime you want to have me, if I'm free, I'll help you out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you.
Loving this podcast, man.
Yeah. Also joining me, you know him from the G Show, the other podcast we do, G95, aka Matt. What's up, my brother?
What's up, everybody? I'm here.
Yeah, you're here.
For the first Geek Out.
Yeah, it's your first Geek Out. Well, let's get right into it. We got a bunch of shit to geek out at. The first thing I want to talk about seriously is the underperformance of Ghost in the Shell last week. Now, before the movie came out, there was the controversy surrounding it about whitewashing. See, Monty got a very, very politically correct way of saying that word. I'm going right into it. I don't care. Use the controversial word. But there was that stink was around it because of that. And it bombed. It literally bombed at the box office. Was it because of the stigma of whitewashing, or was it because the movie just wasn't good and the word of mouth got to it? So I'm going to start with you, C, because you seen it yesterday. I saw it yesterday myself. You seen it yesterday, so it's fresh in your head. You tell me what you thought of the movie, and do you think the reason why it bombed was because of whitewashing?
I honestly would have to say that probably played a heavy part into it, because it wasn't like, I can't say that it was a particularly great movie. Like, it didn't blow my mind. The visuals were spectacular. It's one of those movies where it's very amazing visually, and I'm glad I saw it for that, because I was very impressed by a lot of the shots and the cinematography and the effects and everything. I can't say it was a particularly astonishing movie. It didn't break new ground for me or anything like that. But it wasn't one of those movies where it's like I walked out of it saying, I'm telling everybody not to see this. It's like, it's a trash movie, don't go see it. So I don't think it would necessarily underperform, and especially it underperformed on its opening weekend before anyone really had a chance to get out and say whether or not this was good or bad. So I do have to feel that the controversy surrounding it played a heavy part in people not going to see it. I'm not as familiar with Ghost in the Shell long term, like the original source material. So I don't know whether or not, I'm seeing articles in defense of having Scarlett Johansson play the character. And the shell that she was in was supposed to be inspired by European things, so it makes sense in that context. I'm not as familiar with it, so I can't argue for or against casting Scarlett Johansson for that role in terms of, it makes sense for portraying the character in that ethnic kind of look. I don't think that Scarlett Johansson necessarily brought anything to the character that was significant where they had to have her play it. I do feel like they casted her because of the weight her name brings. But in this particular case, it kind of backfired on them because of the whole thing. It was like, why didn't you get an Asian person to play this character? I don't think it necessarily had to be an Asian person to play Major in the form of the shell. It's revealed in the story. Spoiler alert at this point, I'm warning everybody.
Nobody's seeing this movie.
Yeah, so it is revealed in the movie that the character initially was a Japanese woman, and then after they put her into the shell, it's portrayed. So long story short, I don't think the ethnicity of the character was really necessary. It didn't have to be white, black, or whatever. It's not an inherent part to the character itself. But they do play with the idea of identity in it. So I do feel that actually, my personal opinion is that having Scarlett Johansson play the character actually kind of, if you analyze it, makes a commentary about whitewashing. Because here you have this plot line where these people come in and they kill all these Japanese people, and then they take their brains and put them into these shells. and they kind of conform them to that identity that they want them to have. So it's almost kind of like an imperialistic kind of thing when you're looking at it politically. So it actually kind of sends a message about whitewashing and how they're forcing these identities on other cultures and everything like that. So if you look at it in that light, it's actually a very interesting talking piece, and the movie actually is for me, a positive in that. That's my interpretation. You know, you can agree or disagree, but in my interpretation, it's a positive in that because it opens that dialogue, saying, you know, here we have this situation where these Japanese people's identities were taken and then kind of forced to play these like European-inspired cultural identities and roles and everything. You also have to consider, too, because I read this interesting article, and I don't want to dominate the conversation too much, but I read this article where they kind of talked about, like, you have to take into consideration, too, that, a lot of people in Japan don't really care because they weren't planning on seeing the movie anyway. And B, you also got to look at the fact that, like, honestly, if you look at Japan in terms of their entertainment and everything like that, they're some of the biggest appropriators of Western culture on that side of the planet. So they're taking, like, they kind of, so, like, does that make it fair game then to take part of their culture and play it for our own thing because they're kind of doing the same thing with us? Is it like a balance kind of thing? Again, I'm not putting my own thing on it. I'm just saying, like, that's something that people can think about. That's what I like about this movie, is that it opens that conversation. So instead of punishing it for, you know, whitewashing, whatever like that, use it as a platform to open that conversation and have that dialogue and move forward from there. I think the internet loves to get angry about stuff and then punish the things that makes them angry instead of using it as a stepping stone to have a conversation. And I don't think that's fair, because I also think that a lot of movies suffer from that fact that, like, people, you know, this aside, because this is a real issue, but, like, you take a look at movies like Pacific Rim, where people kind of just choose to hate on things before they even come out. And it builds this big negative word of mouth, and an actually decent movie, not great, but a decent movie winds up suffering because everybody's like, oh, fuck this. It's just like Power Rangers Light or whatever like that. And this is why a lot of original content doesn't get out, is because these people come up with, you know, kind of cool ideas and try to do it, and then people shit all over it before it has a chance to, you know, really shine, and we punish things instead of, like, trying to open a dialogue and move on from there.
I'm not following that. So, Matt, the floor is yours.
Sorry.
Well, he summed a lot of it up pretty well. I don't think the whitewashing aspect really made that much of an effect on the overall, like, why it's not doing too well. Yeah, there's a big controversy and stuff, but, like, in comparison, the controversy is fairly small to that of other movies, because anime isn't really as big of a genre as people think it is. Like, it's a very popular thing. It's, you know, a multi-billion-dollar industry overall. But, you know, like, the average person doesn't know what Ghost in the Shell is, chances are. You know, there's, like, people who grew up with watching it on Toonami or something, just watched it, you know, just they think it's a cartoon. Like, a lot of people think Cowboy Bebop is a cartoon. So I think, you know, it's you know, just people who aren't, like, super into that don't really know. That being said, I do appreciate how they've addressed the whole whitewashing thing in the movie. I think they came at it from a decent angle. I don't personally think there was really much of that going on because, you know, the Major's shell was made in Germany. Just you know, in the context and canon of the franchise, her body was made in Germany, and a lot of artists in anime draw people to be, like, generally of kind of like a neutral, you know, no real descent. Sure, a lot of stuff takes place in Japan. Most stuff takes place in Japan and Tokyo and whatnot, but you know, they're not drawn to look specifically Asian. Cowboy Bebop is another really good example. You can't honestly sit there and tell me that, yeah, this is somebody named Jet or Spike If somebody named Spike Spiegel is definitely an Asian person. You know, that's it's just silly. They do, because they don't look at it from that angle. They draw manga and anime to be open for interpretation, so it kind of hits closer to whoever's watching it. Like, I mean, the Attack on Titan and Full Metal Alchemist, two of like the bigger animes. Like FMA is probably one of the biggest anime ever of all time, and Attack on Titan is fucking huge right now. Those both take place in Germany, you know, and like, Attack on Titan definitely place in Germany, and FMA takes place somewhere around there in Europe. But you know, those are not distinctly like Japanese or Asian characters. You know, they're supposed to be kind of ambiguous, and even in the show, there's in Ghost in the Shell, all the media is about. It's fairly ambiguous, and like the whole point of Ghost in the Shell is kind of like, you know, what's underneath, and it's like a topic about, and philosophies about like self-identity, and to brand something with something like whitewashing is a little silly, but that's going to happen no matter what in any case of any kind of anime adaptation. I think it's gonna, you know, rustle some jimmies or something, but it's I didn't think it was a big deal. I think the movie underperformed because it was a really disappointing movie. I went in hoping for the best, and I left really disappointed. Like, yeah, it's a gorgeous movie. It's, you know, and there is a lot of really cool moments, but for every cool moment, there's something that I've either seen before, or it was just boring, you know. It was a fairly, like, Ghost in the Shell has kind of a lot of, there's so many different story routes they could have gone down for it. You know, bigger story arcs from the Standalone Complex TV show, or any one of the movies. They kind of took the most inspiration from the first movie. But, you know, some of it was just more or less a paint by numbers movie. You know, they went the safe route. They went the predictable kind of, the story point here, and here. And, you know, you tie it together this way. And some of it was like straight out of Blade 2. Some of that stuff was straight out of Blade 2, and I kind of laughed to myself in the theater because of it. But yeah, I digress. I think that's why it didn't do well. I don't think the whitewashing controversy hit as hard as people think, and I just think it was kind of a lousy movie.
I agree with both of you. I didn't watch this movie and see the whitewashing effect. It didn't bother me. It didn't take me out of the movie. What took me out of the movie was bland performances. I'm sorry, but Scarlett Johansson was playing Black Widow as a robot. What killed me was, yes, she's a cyborg in essence, but she has a brain. Her brain is real. And she's showing no emotion whatsoever. I don't think that's because of the cyborg. You know, I don't think it's because of the show. So I was bored with that. Her performance was terrible. You know, I was really bored with that. I'll tell you, for me, the movie in general, I didn't hate it, but it's not something I'm going to rush out and see again unless I have a weird fetish for Scarlett Johansson running around in skin tight, almost see-through fucking clothes. But I don't. Yeah, but I don't. You know what I'm saying? I can watch that shit in the Avengers movie where she's better. But I was bored most of this movie. I really was. I was bored most of this movie. I remember I felt the same way when I saw the original anime back in the early 90s or mid-90s. I was bored. So, I mean, and that was the only time I saw the anime. I never watched Standalone Complex. I never went and revisited the original Ghost in the Shell after my initial disappointment with it. And I gave this one a shot. And it bored me. The only thing I honestly felt anything for, which is very weird, was towards the end, and of course we said spoilers, but whatever, nobody's seen this movie. When she goes to the Asian woman, and it turns out that was her mother. The woman, the mother, she had the most emotion in the whole movie, and I felt her. I can't lie, when she was realizing it, when she was saying to her, you look at me like my daughter, like she did. Man, actually, I was like, wow, damn, okay. And then, of course, the end when she sees her and she goes, you don't have to come here no more. And she says, I know, and they hug. That was my favorite part of the whole movie. What was that? 5 minutes combined, in total. So when you have a movie that's, a little over 90 minutes, and less than 5 minutes does something to you, yeah, the action was, for what it was all right. I've seen better action this year. John Wick, Logan, hell, even fucking Power Rangers. Like I said, though, visually, it's stunning. It's beautiful to look at. That definitely, it looks good. But it still felt a little bit confined. It felt too claustrophobic. It did, like, I didn't see a giant cityscape and then all the intricacies to justify how I felt about the way this city it looked. If you guys follow what I'm trying to say. For instance, you look at Akira and you see Neo Tokyo. That is a gigantic fucking city. That's like just huge. And so when you get into the little set pieces, you can feel, okay, this is why this confined, because the city's just built on top of each other. I didn't get that sense of scope here, but visually it was unbelievably beautiful. So my hat goes off to that and the Japanese actress who played her mother. Other than that,
by the way, since you mentioned Akira, I can't wait to see how American studios fuck that one up.
I don't even want it even in it. And they're saying, they want Jordan Peele to direct it, and I'm like, okay, it came off of Get Out and to great success. But remember, Get Out cost what, 10 cents to make, and it made $700 million. Come on, man. Of course, that's
I really hope that he turns it down, because he has way too much potential to possibly ruin his career based on this movie.
Yeah. I agree.
Hopefully, because Hollywood does not have a great track record. There's two things that they don't have a great track record with in terms of adaptations: video game movies and movies based on anime. And hopefully someone somewhere will learn the fucking lesson that we don't know what we're doing. Maybe we should just leave this shit alone.
I gotta disagree with the video game movies.
I think making a live action Akira movie is just a terrible idea, because they'd have to dumb it down fucking much, because that last 45 minutes of the movie go over even my head, and I'm like a pretty decent anime fan.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think what it comes down to, and you guys are right, the controversy probably didn't hurt it as much as the fact that just people just weren't anticipating this movie, because, as Matt mentioned, Ghost in the Shell, people are aware of it, but it's not this huge thing. It's not this huge pull like a Dragon Ball Z, where everybody knows what the fuck Dragon Ball Z is. So it just didn't really have the buzz around it to be worth investing $100 million to make this movie. I think it's obvious at this point we're probably not going to get a franchise out of it.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, you only had, in the entire 90 plus minutes of runtime, you only had one real performance that actually felt like someone was trying to act. And it was so every other performance in that movie was so bland and generic and emotionless that when the scene with the mother came on, I actually kind of felt awkward, because it just felt so out of place. Wait, nobody else is feeling shit in this movie. Why are you trying to feel things, Mom? It just kind of put, but like you said, Scarlett Johansson, it was weird to me. It was a weird choice to me for Scarlett Johansson to play Major as this cold, calculating thing, where because the whole premise was that she was a machine with an actual human mind. There should have been emotion. When she found out that the whole thing was a conspiracy and that like these people intentionally killed her to make her this thing, the reaction should have been fucking anger and like rage. It's like you stole my fucking life from me. And she'd be like, I have to go back. I have to find more. You're a human. You're in a robot body, but you're a fucking human. If I found out some people did some shit like that to me, my reaction would not be like, take me back. I have to know more. Like my shit would be like, I'm fucking killing everybody. Like everyone. Like the character Kuze was the only one that was reacting to it in a way that to me felt like a human person actually would. Like, you stole my life from me. I'm tearing your fucking world down.
And in that note, that is a perfect way to segue into our next topic, because we spent way too long on Ghost in the Shell. You stole my life from me. I'm back. I'm killing everybody. That's what we got basically the gist of in the new Mummy trailer. Uh-oh. Time out. Thoughts. I'm going first. I really dug the shit out of this trailer. The first one, it was okay. I dug it. It was all right. The Mummy, I didn't get much from it. This trailer starts off, and I was already in. I love the idea. Tom Cruise running, with some dude. I guess some spy shit. And then, boom, bomb goes off, and gigantic cavernous cave or whatever opens up in the ground. Hole opens up in the ground, and there's this, pharaoh head or whatever tomb. And I just love that idea, that thought, like, okay, this is something different. We've never seen this. Always we found a pyramid, or we found this was different. This was some military operation gone haywire, and they found this thing, and then, you get the gist of the story. They locked her up. She wanted more power. They buried her alive, and she's a crazy evil sorceress chick who looks damn fine. I love the trailer. I dug it a lot. I like Tommy Cruise. It's all good. Matt, what were your thoughts on the Mummy trailer?
I'm still pretty skeptic about the whole thing. I really want to like it. I really, really want a cool new Universal Monsters cinematic universe thing. That would be the fucking tip-top shit. But I'm still really skeptical. I really hope they don't go down like the kind of more cliche action movie route for all of them. That being said, I'm still totally going to see the movie. It looks still like a fun, at the very least, a fun popcorn movie. I'm not expecting great things, but yeah, the trailer sold me a little bit more about the potential it has. I hope maybe that there are some more prevalent kind of horror aspects in the trailers have shown, really. It does feel a bit just more like a supernatural action movie at this point. But yeah, it sold me a bit more, but yeah, I'm still reserving my hype a bit.
They had a little throwback to the original Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser. Not the original, but the 90s Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser. You see the mummy's mouth in the dust, in the sandstorm coming, and they have a monarch type agency with Dr. Jekyll running the show. See, Monty, man, what were your thoughts on that?
I'm more on Matt's side of things with this, because I was hyped when they first announced the idea of a Universal monster shared universe when they did the Dracula Untold thing. And then Dracula Untold turned out to be such a piece of shit that they kind of like pulled back a little bit on it. Like, oh yeah, this one's, yeah, I mean, this was going to be our setup, but now it's not our setup. Like, because now they're saying that Dracula Untold is not going to be a part of this shared universe. Yeah. Even as much as that movie clearly was hinting at a shared universe. I do agree it's going to be a fun popcorn movie. I know anytime Tom Cruise is involved in an action movie, I'm going to see some crazy, insane stunt shit that actually happened, which I saw the background stuff when they were talking about the plane stunt where, like, the plane's crashing, and Tom Cruise actually talked everybody into going on that vomit comet shit they train astronauts on.
Yep.
So they actually did, like, real zero-G effects, like the actors were really being thrown around inside this plane. So I'm going to see it for that, because that always gets me hyped. But I do agree. I think this is kind of feeling more like a supernatural action movie as opposed to, like, I was hoping for something more of, like, along the lines of a Monster Squad, which is my initially as a kid, that kind of like put me onto the idea of like all these different monsters from these different movies coming together, and it was like a legit horror thing. Like, you know, you had Dracula trying to open up this other dimension and all this shit. And I was like, okay, so this is a real horror aspect. He's trying to destroy the world, and he's trying to like be a monster as opposed to like, oh, let's just run around and shoot things up and blow shit up and everything. I do kind of have to wonder why these storylines, especially in terms of like the mummy stuff, like why Egyptian curses always involve turning the people they're trying to punish into gods. Like we're gonna curse you forever by basically giving you the power to destroy the world. Like, isn't that kind of what you tried? You tried. That's what they were trying to do in the first place, and that's what you were trying to keep them from doing. But that's just a little thing that I kind of nitpick on. Like it was the same thing in the first one. It's like we're gonna curse you for killing the pharaoh by turning you into a god. Like, stop doing that, Egyptian people. That's not cool. But that little joking aspect aside, yeah, like it does seem like it's going to be a fun, entertaining movie. But I'm still not, based on the trailer, officially sold on the idea of this being like an intriguing story. I'm looking forward to it, A, because like I said, the Tom Cruise stunt is going to be insane, because it always is. And B, because one of the biggest draws for me, one of my favorite parts of Man of Steel was Russell Crowe chewing the scenery up.
Oh, yeah.
And like we're going to get that in this movie. Like Russell Crowe is going to be chewing the shit out of this scenery. So I'm looking forward to that. He's going to be having a lot of fun, which is going to make it fun for me. But outside of that, yeah, like I have to agree with Matt. Like the trailer didn't really do anything for me in terms of like, oh, I can't wait to see this movie. It's going to be more like, all right, I'll see it.
In a summer of a lot of shit coming out, this should be diamond in the rough. That's the way I'm looking at it, because I'm just saying. I agree. Definitely looks like a supernatural action movie where it should focus more on the horror element. The Mummy is a scary thing. It's curses and zombies. Come on, But hey, like you said, Tommy Cruise doing action stunts for real. I cannot wait till he jumps into a volcano, swims through the lava, and pops up on the other side of the world. Because that's going to happen someday. That's going to happen someday. Speaking of somebody who can actually do that, Batman. He can actually do that. I don't care what anybody says. Batman can't do that because he's fucking Batman. And this week, they dropped a new trailer for a new DC animated movie, Batman and Harley Quinn, in the same style as Batman the Animated Series. It seems like it's a continuation or a story set in that universe. We haven't seen that universe since Justice League went off the air.
We haven't seen the universe since Batman... it was like the Mystery of the Batwoman or something like that.
You're right.
That was after Justice League.
It was after Justice League, you're right. And now here we go. We got a new animated feature. Everybody's coming back, and Bruce Timm is coming back. He, what did he say? He said he storyboarded this. And the writer took his storyboards and created the story. It's crazy. I just love the way Bruce Timm works, especially with this universe. It's why I wish he would run the DCEU, but we'll save that conversation for another hour. Chris, did you see this, and what did you think? What do you think in general of this new animated movie?
I'm definitely excited by it. Like, I'm definitely excited to get that iteration of Batman again, the animated series version of Batman, because to me, that was my, like, aside from the 89 Keaton movie, that was my draw into Batman, was watching the cartoon as a kid, because I very much was a kid when that first dropped in the early 90s and everything. And so that was my real introduction into Batman, where in terms of me being old enough to appreciate the more character dynamics, because like when I was watching the Keaton movie in 89 and everything, I was still too young to like really grasp the depth behind the character. There was just a bunch of cool people in costumes beating each other up. But that series actually, in turn, like I'd have to give it a lot of credit in terms of shaping my creative process, like, you know, seeing what they were doing and how they were writing the stories in that universe. I drew a lot from that in terms of how I kind of go through my own creative process. So that shaped a lot of how I try to do stories and everything. So I'm excited to see that come back, because that iteration of Batman is Batman to me. It's my favorite version of Batman. You know, the Hamill version of Joker is my favorite version of Joker.
Yep.
Bar absolutely fucking none. I was a little pulled out of the trailer because the Harley voice didn't sound... I'm not sure if it's the same actress, but it didn't sound the same.
No, it's not.
It's not on
Yeah. So that was the one thing, because I was, you know, everybody's like, oh, Conroy's back, all of the original voice actors are back and everything like that. So I was looking forward to hearing the original Harley, because Harley, you know, I don't know how many people now are aware of that, but Harley was created entirely for the animated series. Before she ever got into the comic books or other movies or other platforms of media, she was an original character of the series. So that's what I was hoping for, was having, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the actress now, but having her come back and play the character again.
Yeah, it's Arlene Sorkin.
Really, yeah. And that would have really pulled me back. But I'm excited for it because I'm excited to see that style of animation again. I'm excited to see that version of Batman again. You know, Bruce Timm did a lot of amazing things in the creative direction of the original series, the Superman animated series, the Batman animated series, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited were the all-time, to me, definitive versions of the DC universe. So, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see it. I hope it doesn't turn out to be like what they tried to do with the Killing Joke.
Oh boy, yeah, no, I totally agree. Arlene Sorkin would have been just the cherry on the top. I forget the actress's name. She's on The Big Bang Theory. She's if I'm not mistaken, the funny Jewish kid's wife or girlfriend. I don't know where they're at with that relationship, but it's her playing Harley Quinn in this. And my only beef with that was, I mean, you're going to get a new Harley Quinn, a different iteration because time goes on. And Arlene Sorkin, she's not old. I want to say she's old, but she's old. My only beef with it was this Harley Quinn sounded like she was mimicking Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad. And I'm still not sold on that weird Brooklyn, not Brooklyn accent she tries using in the Suicide Squad. And that's how I felt when I was watching the trailer. That's what I heard. I kept hearing that iteration of Harley instead of taking the character and making it your own. But anyway, I digress. Matt, what about you?
I don't particularly mind the new Harley actress whose name also escapes me. You know, Arlene Sorkin is fantastic, and then Tara Strong took over the role very well. I think it was the Arkham games, I think.
Yes.
Which she took over. My biggest beef is with the animation. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the animation style of the Tim's verse, the DC AU. You know, I love all of that, especially once they revamped Batman the Animated Series and changed the animation to make way for Superman and then Justice League. So they were kind of similar animation styles, like they redesigned all the characters and stuff. I actually do prefer that animation over the original Batman because I think it's just a lot more fluid looking. But this animation that they use, I'm really hoping that it's just not complete yet, but it looks like a fan-made kind of thing, just attempting to emulate that particular style. It doesn't look like they use the designs, but something off is just off about them. Maybe it's the color palette, or maybe it's unfinished. But yeah, it seems slightly off, and it kind of worried. Like, I'm a little bit worried that Bruce Timm has lost his touch a little bit with how big of a disappointment Killing Joke was, and like that should be an easier story to adapt to screen because it's such a cinematic comic in itself. But that didn't work out too well, and so I'm hoping that he hasn't lost his touch, or I'm hoping he actually has like the creative genius that he's actually he's praised for, because it seems all of the best DC AU stuff was actually Paul Dini, who did, sure, Bruce Timm came up with the designs and kind of kickstarted the whole thing, but it was Paul Dini who wrote a lot of the best stories. He's the one who made Harley Quinn. He's the one who more so pushed for what Mark Hamill's Joker ended up kind of being, and he wrote the first two Arkham games, and they were both fucking amazing games. So I'm just hoping that Bruce Timm hasn't quite lost his touch. So I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it. I'm just hoping it's better than it currently looks.
Gotcha. Well, jumping from my all-time favorite superhero to my all-time favorite superhero comic book. This week we got word that Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg is going to be adapting, seriously, what I consider the best superhero comic in the world. And that's Robert Kirkman's Invincible. Now, if you guys don't know what that is, Invincible is a story of a young man, a teenager actually, named Mark Grayson, whose father is a superhero from another planet. Quite possibly the world's greatest superhero, Omni-Man. And Mark eventually, as puberty hits, kind of like X-Men, gets his powers. And it's just like this, it's just this fun comic book when you go on this journey with Mark and his powers, and then shit starts hitting the fan. And then it's just like, there's no way you did that. There's no way you pulled that off. There's no way, I can't believe you did what? And it's just a non-stop action, comedy, horror, romp. It's like the best of everything. And that's just the first 13 issues. Now, Robert Kirkman and Evan Goldberg, who've worked together well in the past and has adapted Preacher for AMC to much success, they're grabbing this, and it seems like they're going for a theatrical movie release. I'm not too sure if that's the right move. That's me personally. But let me ask you, Chris. Before we got on, you say you were doing a little bit of research and catching up on it. From what you saw, what are your thoughts on this? Should Invincible, do you think it'll work as a movie franchise? Or do you think, and I've got my reasons why I don't, or do you think a streaming service like Netflix or even Amazon might be able to make this better?
I mean, like, honestly, guys, yeah, I was researching, I was reading up on it, really mostly on Wikipedia. So my knowledge of it thus far is like very kind of clinical. People just kind of breaking down the plot, story points, and everything. So for someone who's like, I guess I would in this conversation would represent the outsider kind of view of it, in the sense of like someone who's not familiar with it and might see the trailer. It kind of feels very like Superman, based on the description, feels very kind of like Superman light, like it's an obvious reinterpretation of the Superman story, only in this version of the story, the Kryptonians aren't all dead and they're also kind of dicks.
Yes.
But like, yeah, so like, I'm going to be honest, because I know Kirkman was the creator of Walking Dead. I'm not a huge fan of either the comics or the series. So my experience in terms of Kirkman's work is very much like, that's my only experience with him, so I'm kind of not a fan.
Right.
I mean, it could be an interesting thing if they go the cinematic route. I really don't think, because a lot of people go into the movie thinking, oh, this is just basically a rip off Superman. Whereas if you kind of did it as a series, it gives you more time to kind of develop and distinguish the plot points and show where the differences are and how there's actually more to this character than where if you only got two hours to tell that story, it is going to be kind of crammed together and it is going to feel very much like Superman, and people are just going to walk away from the, like, I just go see Man of Steel again if I want to see some shit like this.
Exactly.
So yeah, I kind of, in that sense, I kind of agree with you in the terms of like, maybe they shouldn't go with the cinematic route and they should try and do it as a series, especially consider if this is going to be like an ongoing thing. Like the same thing with Walking Dead, you're going to have a lot more time to pull from this franchise, this comic series, and develop more stories and show more of the thing if it's successful. Whereas opposed to if you kind of do it as a movie franchise, each time you go out to tell those stories, you're going to have to try and cram a lot of shit into 2 hours, and a lot of times stuff suffers from that. So we'll see. Like I said, I can't really call it in that sense because I don't have... Like you, I don't have, like, you have the background with it. You're more familiar with the story and everything like that. I don't have that. So I can't say one way or the other whether it'll be good or bad. but it does feel like if they try to do it as a movie, it would kind of just wind up falling flat.
I'll tell you how much I geek out with this. And pardon me, I sound all stuffy because I am all stuffy. My allergies are killing me. I'll tell you where I geek out with this property. Every time a new trade comes out, I don't go buy this book single issues. I wait for the trades. Every time a new trade comes out, I go back and read from one. That's how much I love this book. There's, I think, 20-something trades out right now. I don't have all 20-something. I'm up to, I think, trade 19, maybe 20, I'm not sure. But 19 or 20 times, I went back and read from the first trade on. I love this book. And the first 13 issues, the first major arc, fits so perfectly as 1 hour episodes in a 13 episode season on Netflix. But anyway, Matt, what about you? You checked out Invincible, you know some of the stuff there, and what do you think? Movie franchise or serialized series?
I know just a little, like Chris, I also know just a little bit about Invincible. I've read a couple issues, just haven't gotten around to reading more, so I'm not super well versed in it, but just as a fan of kind of the underdog in a world populated by a barrage of superhero TV shows and movies, I kind of hope it's more of a standalone kind of movie. I hope it's, they adapt and the first arc or whatever they decide to go with, and make that kind of an open and shut thing and continue it if it needs to be continued. Like I'm kind of against just making things a franchise or a series just for the sake of how thin can we spread this over time? Sure, you tell more of the story, but it's really just more about the money, I think, when they do it like that. So I think there's enough good material there that they can get it into a decent movie, especially with Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen, who, like you said, had a lot of success with Preacher, and which is a very different beast in itself, but they both had very successful careers. In movies and stuff, they're both incredibly talented. So I think it's best served for the story to make it more small scale in the beginning, and then if it works, if it's clicking with people, then continue it.
See,
that's just my thought process. So that's how the movie is gonna do the best. You don't go into it like making one movie and then be like, yeah, we're gonna make 6 more after this, just because the opening weekend did decently, a la Power Rangers. But yeah, I just think take it as it needs to be taken. Like, take it slow and make whatever you make the best it can be. Don't try to rely on the possibility of being like, oh, we can continue that later kind of thing. That's where I'm coming from. That's the mindset I'm in kind of right now with the oversaturation of superhero movies and shows and franchises and all that.
Well,
I just want something that's good and original and a solid adaptation that isn't fucking gonna drag out for the next 5 years.
Well, that's the problem, because you cannot adapt that story into 1 2-hour movie. It can't even be done in 3 hours. That story, that first arc, 13 issues is literally the story. That is the whole thing. There is no, let's say 1 to 4, 1 to 5, and that's a nice little self-contained arc. The arc, the 13 issues, is his steady progression up until he meets his first real challenge. And the first real challenge is where the nut punch comes in. This is why it works on Netflix. I'm using Netflix as an example because Netflix just, with the Marvel stuff there, is they can do the superhero shows. There's a format there. Plus, each and every trade, except for 2 of them so far, Robin Kirkman has titled them after sitcoms. So he already knows that this is set for TV. Plus, every issue is sort of bombastic. That works well if you translate that to the small screen, because now you can have every episode a self-contained mini movie. There's always something that happens in each issue that you're like, oh, or wow, or man, that was awesome. There's always something, and it's reoccurring things that happen in I'm gonna say 3 hours, because that movie cannot be done in 2 hours or 2.5 hours. It's really hard to do what they need to do cinematically for theaters. You could get away with everything on Netflix in a TV series, but it has to be like on Netflix or a streaming service, because this book, as funny and lighthearted and fun, and like you said, underdog rooted as it is, it gets violent. And once the violence starts, it's more violent than The Walking Dead. And that's zombies eating people. But I'm talking about headbutts until they crush somebody's face. I'm talking about karate chops through the midsection, ripping their intestines out, eating the intestines, because that's the type of people Mark Grayson's father is. That they are fucking Superman and Lobo mixed together. They are savages, and they don't care. And it's so violent and gruesome. I mean, gruesome, that it has to be rated R. And it has to be on Netflix. It really does. And I mean, again, this is just me geeking out because I've read these things so many times, and it's seriously one of the greatest, if that is my personal opinion, the greatest superhero comic ever written. And it's actually coming to an end. One of the things Kirkman said that I appreciate was he doesn't see nobody else doing this. He doesn't really want anybody else doing this. He wrote this. This comic was out before Walking Dead. I picked up Walking Dead because I knew of this comic. I said, oh, Robert Kirkman, plus I love zombies. I was like, let me check it out. It's black and white. It's something different. It's zombies. Let me see. I like the comic. I fell in love with it. I've fallen off recently, the past 2 years or so, and the TV show doesn't do anything for me. But this property is so much different. In a world where, like you said, there's an oversaturation of superheroes, this is the Image version of Spider-Man. That's exactly what this is. The Image version of Spider-Man. How Spider-Man is fun, and when you see the Homecoming trailer, you get the sense of, there's Spider-Man. This is the fun ride I want to be on. That's what Invincible is. But Image is a little bit darker. And I tell you, when they go to deep, dark places, they go there. And every arc is pretty much set up like a season. And it works. That's why when I saw this, they were talking about movies, I'm still adamantly against it. And I believe in Seth Rogan and Evan Goldberg because of the success of Preacher. I hope that they say, you know what, this would work better on Netflix. And why not? Netflix makes like $6 billion a year. That's crazy. So they've got the money. They've got the shows to prove that their success. You look at shit like, you know, the Marvel stuff. When you look at Stranger Things, House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. I mean, the Get Down. Yep. They have a track record now. So I think Invincible would be a perfect fit. They got Voltron, of course. I think it would be a perfect fit in a Netflix family, a feature-length film. There's just too much to cram into one movie to make that one movie work. If they don't do that first arc, the movie will be boring. If they do the first arc, that movie is oversaturated. Now, I will say this. Man of Steel, the end of that movie, when Zod and Superman are fighting in Metropolis and going through buildings the way they are, that is straight out of the last, let's say, issue 11 and 12 of Invincible. That is straight out of those books. I couldn't believe it. When I saw Man of Steel on screen, I was like, that's why I love that movie even more, because I was like, oh my God. That's exactly how it went down in Invincible. They fought in the city, and they took the panels and put it on screen, and they just like Chris said, color swapped. Instead of a nice, bright blue and yellow suit, it was a dull blue and red suit. But it fucking worked. It was the same exact thing, and I loved it. But Netflix is where it's at. Anyway, we're going a little over, so I'm going to jump over one thing, because honestly, it's not that important. But I want to talk about Rogue One because it dropped this week on Blu-ray, DVD. It's out. And Star Wars Celebration is coming up next week. So real quick, I want to get, Chris, I want to hear your thoughts because I already know Matt's thoughts, but just your thoughts on Rogue One in general. Did you enjoy the movie? You have any issues with the movie? Just, give us a quick opinion.
Oh, I fucking love it. I absolutely adored Rogue One. It's probably, next to Empire, probably one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Wow.
One, because it doesn't necessarily, while it features some familiar characters and anything like that, doesn't necessarily tie back immediately to the whole Skywalker saga, which, because my thing is now that Disney owns Star Wars, then we pretty much have to accept the fact that we're going to get like a Star Wars movie a year until the sun blows up and swallows the earth.
Accept it. You say make it sound like a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying that, but because I do like, there does get a point where, some storylines can get stale. Like I'm pretty much ready to be over the whole. Where I'm looking forward to what's going on, because I'm pretty much ready to be over the whole Skywalker story. Like I think they told that story, and so now this new franchise with episode 7, 8, and 9 is kind of building from that, but it still ties back into it. I'm more of the type of like, instead of doing a Han Solo movie and a Lando Calrissian origin story and then Boba Fett, I want to see some fucking planet we haven't even seen yet. Some person that has nothing to do with the Empire or the Jedi. Or I would like to see more stories set in that universe, but with stuff that doesn't really necessarily tie to the central plot line that was developed in the original trilogy. So I'm cool with the idea of them continuing the movies as long as we could get a more expanded universe. I don't want to keep seeing that same story go forward forever, because eventually stories do get stale, and it's like how long can you keep drawing from that same well? But aside, going back to that, like this story does exist in that arc, but it does its own thing. Now, the thing that was like kind of pulled me out of it initially was a little bit, before I fell in love with it after the second viewing, was that they were kind of having built this up as like a heist movie. So I was kind of expecting like an Ocean's 11, but with Star Wars, which I was really excited about. But it's still like it still did good in terms of like maybe a smaller contained, like Dirty Dozen style thing.
Right.
Where it's not like, kind of like a heist movie, but it is like, this little small band of rebels that doesn't necessarily have the support of the wider military aspect until the very end. But like they're kind of like, it's more of an espionage kind of thing, where they're trying to sneak into this base and steal the plans and get it out there and everything like that. And then, so I really loved it for that eventually, but I was kind of hoping for the more heist, kind of like Ocean's 11 kind of thing at first.
Gotcha. Matt, what about you, man? Hey, you saw it. You were sending me messages this week, so you've watched it again.
Yep.
How your feelings change?
Very excited to go get it. I couldn't even wait till after I got done with work. I went to go buy it on my lunch break. Wasted the entire hour in fucking traffic and in Best Buy just trying to get that steelbook. And yeah, it holds up. There's some things I kind of dislike about the movie. There's some more boring moments. I never cared about any of the stuff with like Galen or so. Really, I thought he was just bland, and I felt that was really unnecessary. But just as a whole, yeah, it's up there with the best Star Wars movie. It's definitely one of the best looking Star Wars movies. I know I said in my initial review of it was, it's just so cool to see like the classic Stormtrooper armor and stuff, and the Death Star and stuff, and then like full 1080p or higher, the perfect definition that, Star Wars movies look great on Blu-ray, but, there's still movies that were made in the 70s and early 80s. So, seeing that with today, like those classic images with today's technology is what blew me away the most, visually anyway. But yeah, it's a great movie. I put it next to Return of the Jedi as as one of the best. It's up there for me. But yeah, did they? So is it me, or did they change the opening title for the home release?
That's a good question, because mine's still sealed. Believe it or not, my Star Wars Rogue One is still in the package. I've not watched it yet. I'm a little upset with myself, but it's it's what it is. There were other things that needed to get done this week, and unfortunately did not get a chance to watch that. I instead watched Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, because that's my wife's shit. And happy wife, happy life. You guys get it. But I am gonna watch it today. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I kick myself because I should have went to see that thing in the theaters at least 2 more times. Because I don't know. There's something about that movie. While I love that movie, I still feel like, holy shit, is this real? Like, is this really the movie that takes place before the thing that started it all for me? Holy shit. So there's still some kind of like something I gotta jump over, because I still, for whatever reason, can't believe that movie's here, that we have it, and it is that good. I fucking love it. So I'm looking forward to watching it again. I'm gonna watch that and probably do myself a severe disservice and watch A New Hope right after, because as much as that ending is cool, that end scene is fucking cool, I just didn't like the idea of Vader overlooking and seeing the Tantive 4 fly away. I hated that. I hated that.
Yeah.
Because Vader should just bust up on that ship like, stop the bullshit. I just saw you. It's not about being imposing or nothing. I just killed a bunch of you with this fucking light sword here. I'm going to kill you all. I said light sword. Don't sue me. I know what it is. But yeah.
I do feel like that. There are certain, there are certain changes. There are certain ways that the movie makes you view the original trilogy in a different light that I feel are positive. But I do agree with you in that one is kind of a negative, because like we're on a diplomatic amusement. Like, motherfucker, I just saw you leave this battle stealing these fucking plans. Like, don't fuck with me. Like, so it does change that kind of aspect of it. That kind of creates a plot hole instead of solving one.
Yeah.
The way I see it is, it's Vader toying with them in a bit. It's like him talking to like a grown up talking to a 4-year-old who, the grown-up knows the kid did something wrong, but the kid's trying to lie about it, and he's like, you're really on a diplomatic... That's fair. Yeah, that's just how I take it, though,
All right, I'll concede.
One last thing I want to say. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I do like, there is a certain spin that ending puts on Vader's arc, that, when you're looking at stuff like Rebels and this movie and everything like that, there's a certain new spin that it puts on Vader's arc, especially in relation to his final battle with Obi-Wan, where it's like, it kind of adds to his redemption story going into Return of the Jedi. Because you see in that final thing where he's coming onto the ship how much of a fucking badass he still is. Even though he's mostly machine, he can still tear shit up. But when he's fighting Obi-Wan, he's not doing all that cool tossing him around with the Force and chopping. It kind of seems like he's taking it easy on him. So you could take that as interpretation, like, as much as the evil fuck that Darth Vader is now, he's like, this is still my old master. I could have chopped him down in 3 seconds. This is an old-ass dude. I could have chopped him down in 3 seconds. But he's kind of like, it feels like he's pulling back.
Okay, I got a counter to that. I have a counter to that, because that's a great point. But you brought up Rebels. And in that second to last episode of Rebels this season, Obi-Wan took out Maul in 2 swipes. Whomp, whomp. And I think, to what you said, Vader, he understood that. And he tit for tatted with Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan sacrificed himself for Luke, to show Luke, look, it's your journey. I started you on this path. I watched you. And of course, Luke doesn't know that. But, and it's kind of like, hey, Vader, that's your son. Eat it. You know what I'm saying? But I think Vader felt in the Force the tit for tat. And I agree. Could Vader have been going easy on him? I don't know. We have to chalk that up to... Huh?
The way I see it is Vader is like, okay, the last time I fought Obi-Wan, I got my ass handed to me. Like, he cut my ass off and handed it to me, basically. So I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be careful with this one, because he knows, even, you know, if Obi-Wan is an old man at this point, you know, he knows that Obi-Wan is still a fucking badass.
Yeah, and I mean,
so it's Vader being careful.
We got to also try to take into consideration where that happened at the end of Rebels when Obi-Wan kills Maul. Is it a year away from Rogue One and A New Hope? You know, and that's what I'm hoping that. And jumping into this next part of this Star Wars thing, Celebration coming up next week. When they get to the Rebels panel, I'm looking forward to seeing that. This I hope season 4 is the end of Rebels, because we're playing in very tight spaces here now. Very, very tight. I mean, like, trench tight. You can't really keep going. It has to end. Rogue One showed that the ghost was there, and you know Chopper's there, and you know, if it's Hera, it could be her father. We don't know who General Syndulla is. It could be either one. Hera could have died this season. Who knows? I believe it's Hera. But I would like to see that wrapped up and end, and that would give me a sort of satisfaction in knowing where in the time frame did Obi-Wan kill Maul, and where did Obi-Wan get killed by Vader. You know, how long was that apart? That's one of the things that I've always loved about Star Wars. I always loved, like, putting together the timelines. In the old novels, I don't know if you guys ever read some of the old novels, but, like, some of the later ones, like, right in the first cover, it had the Star Wars timeline from, like, the Old Republic to, like, you know, the birth of Yoda to... It was crazy all the way up until, you know, where they were at there. And I always used to love that. I used to geek out about that. So I want to see how that goes. But speaking of Celebration... Matt, what are you looking forward to besides the Last Jedi trailer? Is there anything else you're looking forward to?
Hopefully they announce / confirm an Obi-Wan movie. That would just be the bee's knees, honestly. Like, oh god, I think the Han Solo origin kind of movie is so unnecessary, and I so don't care about its existence. Like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna see it. It's Star Wars, of course, but like, oh, there's so many better roads they could go down. Just Obi-Wan is the big one for me, especially after you know what he did in Rebels a few weeks ago. You know, that shows, like, okay, one, he is still the badass Obi-Wan we all know and love, and two, there's 19 whole years of him doing whatever, you know, getting in bar fights or whatever, you know, just saving the day on little like a fucking cowboy just going from town to town on Tatooine. That's what I want to see. That's really what I want to see. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to announce whatever standalone movie is next after Han Solo at Celebration this year. That's me.
Chris, what about you? Looking forward to anything besides the Last Jedi trailer?
Yeah, like I agree with Matt. I'd definitely looking forward to, like, a standalone Obi-Wan movie that shows what was going on within those years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. I'd definitely love to see that. If not that, you know, I don't know if they've officially announced yet or just hinted at, but I'd love to see an official announcement of, like, a Boba Fett movie so that the character can finally earn all the hype he's gotten over the years.
Yeah, he's overhyped.
Because, like, honestly, with Boba Fett, as much as people love him, if you take only what you see of him in the movies, he's kind of not that great of a bounty hunter. Like, he's not that great of a character. He's like, he tracks the Millennium Falcon, and then Vader does all the work. And then Vader lets him take Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and then he, like, almost immediately dies. So, I'd love to see a movie where, like, that whole kind of, like, yo, Boba Fett is a badass because he stands there quietly. Like, I'd love to see that finally be earned, and I'm sure there's an interesting story with him. They do kind of do it in not Rebels, but what was the Clone Wars series, where they show a couple episodes of him as a kid, where you see Boba Fett as a kid, kind of showing why he's such a significant threat to the Jedi. So I'd love to see that. I'll definitely go see a Han Solo movie just because they put Donald Glover in it, and I will watch anything that furthers Donald Glover's career. I am a die-hard fan of Donald Glover. I'd also love to see them start talking and maybe hinting at some stories that don't, like I said, that don't necessarily tie into... You know what I'd love to see? and this is an idea that I had, would be a stormtrooper movie, kind of like a Saving Private Ryan, almost kind of like seeing the training of stormtroopers coming up, and just having like a straight up, just like showing what things are from their side. I think it would be a very intriguing thing to see, you know, because we've gotten to a point in our cinematic histories where a lot of directors and filmmakers and storytellers are kind of showing not everything is so black and white, and stormtrooper, you know, like, not everyone we perceive as a bad guy is necessarily doing bad things for bad reasons. Now, everybody has the reason for doing shit. And I'd love to see, especially since in the Clone Wars, like, these guys were all clones, but they had their own independent personalities.
Yeah.
And individualities and everything like that. So I'd love to see what that experience is like for a stormtrooper on that side, where they're kind of slaves to the Empire, but they do have their own distinct personalities and maybe views on it. So like you got a little hint of that with Finn in Episode 7. So I would kind of like to see like maybe like a Horrors of War kind of thing, like almost like a Jacob's Ladder with stormtroopers.
I'll tell you what, you want to see something like that? Read the book The Lost Stars, or Lost Stars I think it's called, because it has that, everything you said there, it's in that dynamic. Two good friends as children going up in the ranks, both joining the Imperial Academy, and then having some kind of a fallout where one leaves the academy and the other one continues, and how their paths intertwine, you know, throughout their life, from childhood to being in the academy to being in, you know, major wars that we've seen in Star Wars. It is so fucking good. I got it for Christmas. I ate that book up in 3 days. I loved it, and you get that sense. You would enjoy that if that's what you want to see. It's not from a stormtrooper's perspective, but just the Imperials, you know, you see all the different layers and the characters. And you know, some people are there because it's a job. It's not about duty. It's their job. Like they like doing this particular thing. And there's other people who are there that they don't even know they're working on a battle station. It's just so well done. But yeah, if you want, it's called Lost Stars. I forget the author's name. But that book, it would answer your questions. You
know what I would also really love to see this year at Celebration? Since it's the 40th anniversary of Star Wars this year, I would love for them to announce the unaltered Blu-ray trilogy coming out.
Stop. Don't do it. Stop. You know they have in a 40th
I'd love
panel.
to see that too, but I think at this point we all kind of know that's never going to happen. Lucas is not going to let that happen.
He's not really in control anymore, though.
I think the rights to those original ones, though, are off limits. I think he has that. I'm not certain 100%, but I could have been dreaming or lucid dreaming. I don't know, but I could have sworn somewhere down the line I heard the reason why we'll never see that is because Lucas owns that.
Yeah.
You
so
know?
like he's not necessarily in charge of Lucasfilms and all that stuff anymore, but I read the same thing that he's the only one that actually has the original prints, unaltered prints.
Yeah, and he doesn't want, because he don't want his vision being skewed, which your vision was the original.
It's like,
because I love Return of the Jedi. That's my favorite Star Wars movie, but that special edition hurt me in ways unimaginable. Okay, that just, there was nothing wrong with the Wookiee song, the Snide Noodles, and the original. There was nothing wrong with the puppet and the knee kicks. Nothing. But then he CG'd and he added that fuzzy little thing, and it was a stupid. I hated the whole fucking thing. I hated it so much. It hurts. I skip that shit all the time. Skip. But yeah, Matt, I do agree with you. If there was an announcement that we would get the Blu-rays to that, I'd fucking keel over. Are you kidding me? I'd be like, thank you, Jesus.
Well, you know, if it does come to pass in the next coming week or so, then you heard it here first.
That's right.
I agree. I'd definitely love to see that. I don't think we're going to actually see it until Lucas died and somebody retains the rights to those prints.
Yeah, his kids say, you know what, here, we've been trying to get this shit, but he had that shit locked.
You won't listen to reason.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to more on the animated side. I want to hear Rebels, This Is It. I want to know what they're going with next, because I hope, we spoke about this, Matt, I hope that the next animated series takes place after Return of the Jedi and before The Force Awakens. That I want to see the continuing adventures of Luke, Leia, and Han, Chewie, and the droids. I want to see what happens, and I'm telling you right now, it will be a severe disservice if they kill Grand Admiral Thrawn in whatever season of Rebels, if they continue to go on past season 4. If they kill him in Rebels, because honestly, Timothy Zahn's original Thrawn trilogy deserves a cinematic treatment. It doesn't have to be on the big screen, even though that would fucking throw me for a goddamn. I would lose my mind. Forget it. I'd shoot myself in the face and resurrect myself, because if they were to say we are adapting Timothy Zahn's novels, and they get, let's say, Sebastian Stan to play Luke Skywalker, and they have, young Han Solo, which, again, that movie does not need to happen at all. But I don't care what they do. But let's just say if that, hypothetically, that was to be, that would be better than all the movies. I don't care. I would go crazy. Anyhow, I would love to see that Thrawn trilogy in cartoon form. And, of course, you have to change it up a bit because of canon now. But it works so well. Those 3 books are so well done. And you could give us the crazy mad Jedi Joru's Kebab. And you could have the clone Luke Skywalker from the hand and introduce Mara Jade that way. That would be fucking perfect. If Mara Jade just so happens, let's say that was a grave and it was Mara Jade, I would go crazy. But that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see them announce the next Star Wars series. And hopefully it takes place between Jedi and Force Awakens. I would definitely love to see the events that transpired, like, what really drove that wedge between Han Solo and Leia, aside from the whole thing about their son. Like, I'd love to see that storyline being told, like how Ben Solo eventually became Kylo Ren and where the fuck Snoke comes from, and Luke kind of just like, I can't fucking deal with this shit anymore. So I'd love to see those things touched upon. Yeah. Official, clear answers given. No, so, well, we got a week. We're going to see that Last Jedi trailer by Friday. And, we're going to be on that shit. Don't worry. The next week's podcast is going to be chock full of Star Wars people. So get ready. We might even change the damn name. If I'm hitting you up to do the podcast before you start hitting me up. Like, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Both y'all knocking at my door like, let's see the fucking trailer. Like, what are y'all doing here? What the hell? You didn't have to come all the way to Vegas to do this with me, bro. But, all right. Listen, fellas, man. We going to wrap this one up here because we went over a bit. I had a great fucking time. It was that damn Ghost in the Shell. But anyhow, listen, Chris, man, thank you for joining me once again. No problem. And Matt, thank you for joining me.
Of course, as always.
And thank you guys out there for listening to us ramble and geek out. We had a little bit of fun. Next week, Star Wars all day, every day. You'll hear it. You'll hear it here on the Geek Out. I am G1. We out of here. Peace.